Banks. We trust them every day with our savings, loans, and even our dreams. But have you ever stopped to wonder how much power banks truly hold? What if I told you that the banking system is not just about storing money, it is the key mechanism that controls the world? That it has a hidden agenda, one that's been shaping our future for centuries? Banks didn't just emerge from nowhere, they were carefully crafted, designed to centralize power in the hands of a few. It all began centuries ago in medieval Europe when merchants and royal families realized that they could use money to control more than just trade. They could control people, nations, and empires. Banks were created under the guise of being helpful institutions, offering a safe place to store wealth. But from the very beginning, they were manipulated to consolidate power and influence. In the 1600s, we saw the first central bank, the Bank of England. At the time, it was touted as a stabilizing force for the economy, meant to protect the wealth of the common people. However, history paints a darker picture. The Bank of England wasn't. Created to protect the people, it was created to ensure that the monarchy and the elites had a continuous flow of money, no matter the cost. It was the first step in the creation of a financial system that would put all the wealth and power in the hands of a few. Why were these banks so powerful? They didn't just store money, they issued currency, controlled the flow of credit, and held the keys to the economic future. And as the centuries went on, banks only grew in influence, shifting from regional institutions to global powerhouses. Today, major central banks like the Federal Reserve hold the power to influence economies, create money out of thin air, and even decide the fate of nations. But here, that's the terrifying truth. The wealthiest families in the world have been in control of the financial system for generations. They created the banking system not just for profit, but as a tool of domination. These families, who are they? And how much of the world do they really control? It's something most of us deal with every day, but what if I told you it as not just a personal issue, as a weapon used by banks to control nations? Debt has become the foundation of modern economics. Without it, the global financial system would collapse. But who benefits from all this debt? The answer might shock you. The banks, of course. Banks have mastered the art of debt creation. Through loans, bonds, and credit, they have woven a web of debt that's almost impossible to escape. Every time the government borrows money, it becomes indebted to the banks. Every time a person takes out a loan, they become a servant to the financial system. This debt system wasn't created by accident. It was designed. The banking elites wanted to create a world where every individual, every nation, and every corporation was dependent on them. And in return, they would have the power to control interest rates, to dictate the flow of money, and to decide who thrives and who falls. In the 20th century, this manipulation reached new heights. The creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913 allowed the U.S. government to print money at will. But the people didn't realize that this was not real wealth, it was backed by nothing but debt. The central banks could print more money, but it would always come with strings-attached debts that would need to be paid back with interest. This system is unsustainable. Governments have printed more and more money, but the debt continues to grow. The question is, who will pay for it, the banks? Or will the burden fall on the taxpayers, who are left with nothing but the consequences of a broken system? Debt. At the heart of the banking system lies a hidden agenda. It's not just about making money, it's about maintaining control. Central banks don't just influence economies, they manipulate them. They decide when and how to create money, how much to lend, and who gets to prosper. They determine the financial future of entire nations without any democratic oversight. Take the 2008 financial crisis, for example. What started as a simple housing market crash quickly spiraled into a global economic disaster. But while millions of people lost their homes, their savings, and their jobs, the banks, the very institutions responsible for the crisis, came out unscathed. In fact, they were bailed out by taxpayers. How could this happen? Because the system was designed to benefit them, not us. The banks were too big to fail because they controlled the system. They could print money, shift the blame, and pass on the consequences to ordinary people, while protecting their own interests. But the manipulation didn't stop there. In the modern era, the banks have learned to use their control over money to shape global policies, fund wars, and push entire economies into debt. They have their hands in every pie, from the food you eat to the air you breathe. Everything is influenced by the banks. The question is, how much longer will we allow this to continue? We like to think of ourselves as free people, living in a world where anyone can achieve success through hard work and determination. But the truth is, we are all slaves to the financial system. Our wealth, our jobs, our futures, they're all controlled by the invisible hands of the banks. Think about it. How many of us rely on loans just to buy a house or get an education? How many people are born into a system where wealth is hoarded by a few, and the rest of us are left to scrape by? The game is rigged from the start. Even if you think you're financially independent, you're still at the mercy of the banks. They control your interest rates, your credit score, and your ability to access capital. The system doesn't care about your dreams, it only cares about keeping you in debt, dependent on them and under their control. But here's the scariest part. The system is getting worse. Banks are becoming more powerful, more centralized, and more in control of every aspect of our lives. The rise of digital currencies, surveillance, and AI-driven financial systems only deepens their grip. What happens when the banks have all the power? What happens when money isn't just a piece of paper, but a tool to control every aspect of your life? We've been living in a system designed to serve the elites for centuries. Banks control our wealth, our futures, and our lives, and yet we continue to believe we have any say in the matter. The truth is, we've been trained to accept the status quo. But what if I told you that you don't have to accept it? What if the first step to breaking free is realizing that the game is rigged? What if the power to change it lies within your grasp? It's time to stop being controlled by the banking system and start questioning everything. If you want to uncover more about the truth behind the bank's secret agenda, hit subscribe. We'll continue to expose the forces that have been manipulating our world for centuries. History has hidden the answers. I'll show you where to find them.